So I was finishing up the function run, and I saw a couple that I recognized over the years, and there was a woman, and she was having difficulty with her luggage, and I just said to her, "Oh, here, let me help you with that." And she gave me a real harsh look and said, "No, I don't want any help." And I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Because one of her suitcases, she had two suitcases, and one was going one direction and the other." I said, "Here, let me help you with that." "I don't want any help from you, especially from you." And it gave me that real harsh.
Wow.
Okay. So this happened an hour ago. and so it's like, and I have no idea what prompted. This is just someone I've just seen around the place where I live once in a while. It's a building where a lot of people live. And so the reason I bring it up is because at the moment that something like this occurs, when you encounter, someone who's hostile towards you, or who's sending you an ugly message, or there's any number of endless reasons about why that might be taking place. It might have to do with something that I did or said or whatever that I'm not even aware of. It might have something to do with something that's going on in this person's life at this particular time. It could be her husband was walking with her, and he said, "Don't take that personally." And I was thinking about the Four Agreements. Have you ever read the Four Agreements?
Sure, Don Miguel.
Yeah, do you remember which one I'm speaking about? Which one of those agreements? He said,
I don't know.
I don't want to give you a test here on the air. But one of the agreements was, don't take anything personally, And I was just thinking about what Don Miguel had said in that book about not taking things personally, because so often when we encounter someone who's what we might consider rude or unpleasant or unhappy or whatever it is, the first thing that we want to do is just take it personally, say, "She has no right to talk to me like that, and how dare you, and I'm going to find out what's going on," and or whatever it might, or just go around in a morose kind of way. And it's what I'm talking about, even when I'm talking about watching that movie and being a different person watching that movie, or reading the life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East 25 years after I purchased it, and having it have something totally new for me. And my reaction to this woman talking in this fashion to me just an hour ago or so was very different than it was even for me even a decade or so, or maybe even a few months ago, before I immersed myself in preparation for the seminar that I'm going to be doing on the 24th and 25th of this month, called I Am Light. That I reminded myself that I am light, and that when you have a choice to be right or to be kind, that it's really important to be able to choose kind. And so rather than being right and saying, "Well, how dare anybody talk to me like that? And I have, I didn't do anything to her, and she's just, instead my immediate reaction was to push that kind of, subconscious mind training that I've had, over the years, to react with hostility or hurt or pain or frustration or whatever whenever you encounter what you might consider to be unpleasant or rude behavior in something, is to come from a place of kindness. And I was just thinking to myself how happy I was in the last hour that I didn't walk around wondering and being hurt by and being upset, but instead was just thinking about this woman and just trying to send her as much love as I possibly can, and hope that whatever it is that would motivate her to react in that way to an attempted act of kindness, that it gets soothed and it gets happy, that she becomes happy. And I think if I send energy to her, that would be it just represents a kind of growth thing for me as a person. And if we can, as I speak to all of you out there all over the world, when you encounter any kind of behavior that don't be one of those kind of people who's looking for an occasion to be offended, and consequently then be emotionally upset, and then consequently attract more of what you don't want in your life. And I think that's the essence of what Abraham was speaking to me about in this new product that we have, this book and DVD and CD called Co-Creating at Its Best, that you want the law of attraction is always working. And if you put your thoughts on what you don't like or what you're unhappy about or what makes you angry, then you're going to align with an energy that is going to offer you experiences that match up to exactly what it is that you're thinking, so that every moment of your life, regardless of what it is that's coming at you, you have a choice. And this woman, for me, was a great reminder that I'm growing, and that I can be applying this not just in this kind of an event, but I can be applying it in all kinds of places all over my world, including all of the negativity and things that are taking place. For example, what is taking place in Paris over the weekend at the satirical, that Charlie Hebdo, is that how you say it?
Hebdo.
And what was going on, and to not fill my heart and my head with all kinds of antipathy and vituperative thoughts about all the Muslims in the world and being angry at them, as I'm hearing so many people, and instead just working at we're never going to solve these problems of anger and hostility, which in a personal way show up in the event that I had when trying to help a woman with her luggage, but when they're extended into a larger and larger perspective, and the solution is going to be in finding a place where all of us can send love, where our hearts are so filled with rage and hate towards so many people.
Change your thoughts based upon the wisdom of the Tao, and your life will change. There's many principles to live by in the Tao. First, remind yourself that there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Bring happiness to all that you do. You accomplish much by trying less. It's so inconsistent, isn't it, with what we live in the Western world. But the less you try, when I go out and swim in the ocean, and I do it almost every day, I try to do between 30 minutes and an hour every day, being out there in that ocean. And I just get out there, and if I try less, my arms just seem to know what to do, and the breathing just all works, and I can swim all day. As soon as I try, as soon as I struggle, as soon as I try, the minute that I move myself into trying, it's like if I were to take this little cap here and drop it right there and say, I'm going to try to pick this up. I'm going to try to pick this up. This is what Lao Tzu was speaking about. So all of this, I'm trying, I'm really trying. All of this is called, in reality, not picking it up. That's what that's called, not picking it up. But when I just get easy and do less. See yourself, the Tao says, in everyone you encounter. A great lesson. Every single being, especially the ones that we read about who we're told are our enemies. See yourself in them. Know that whoever they are, wherever they live, they want what we want. They want what I want. They want to be at peace. They don't want to be always struggling. They don't want to be sick. They just want to be loved, whoever they are. I know the skepticism of that. It's like, yes, but, all of the yes, buts. But if they got it too, see, Lao Tzu wasn't speaking to, well, some are going to get this and some probably won't. He was speaking to all of us. Trust in others, the Tao says, to know what's best for themselves. Trust in that. Trust in the pliability, the flexibility of your babies. God, those little babies, they're so great when they're like, 2 weeks old. You can take their foot, put it behind their neck, stick it around here like this, put it in their mouth. They're so flexible. I mean, you can do anything. You pick them up, you turn them upside down. You watch them when they're starting to learn to walk, and they run, crash, they go down into the walls and all of this, and you think, oh my God, this kid will never walk again. Up they go, and they don't. Trust in their flexibility. Live without attachment and be generous. Be strong by bending. By bending. We need to learn this in our lives. We need to learn this in the world. It's not so important to be right. It's so much more important when you have a choice to be right or to be kind. Always pick kind. Always pick kind. Practice radical humility. Live low. Live low like the ocean. Stay low. And all the streams will come to it. That's why it's so powerful. Because it doesn't lord anything over anyone. And rather than looking for miracles, see everything as miraculous. Everything in your life. There was a man who had a Tao experience, what I call a quantum moment. His name was John Newton. He lived back in the beginning of the 18th century, and he was crossing the ocean. He was a slave trader. He had a ship full of human cargo that he was going to trade into slavery in the most hideous practice that was so common at that time in our history. And in the middle of a storm, on his way over there with all of these people, he was 22 years old or 23 years old. And he thought he was going to die, and he thought it was like he must have hit a hurricane or something out there that was before satellites could warn people. And while he thought he was in that state of dying, he took out a pencil and a paper, and he wrote on the back of an envelope, he wrote, "I once was lost, and now I'm found." And it was grace. It was grace that taught my heart to feel. It was grace that brought me home. And when the storm was over, he had a moment. He reconnected to his source. Anybody out there can reconnect to the source, to the Tao, and become a being of Tao. Remember, it's a return trip. And you can make that return trip while you're alive. Remember the parrot. He knows much more than we did. And he returned back to Africa, and he released the slaves, it is said. And for the next 55 years of his life, he shifted and became the most ardent spokesman as an abolitionist to abolish that hideous practice of slavery. That's what he devoted his life to it. A former slave, it's like going from Saul to Paul, from being a person who crucifies and murders Christians to being the author of a big portion of the New Testament as St. Paul. In a moment, it's possible for any of us. I close this beautiful presentation on the Tao, Cecilia, with a poem that was written by a woman. Her name is Naomi Long Madgett. She's from Detroit, went to Wayne State University. She was named the Poet Laureate of Detroit, an acclaimed African-American poet. Listen to these words. It sums up all that I've been saying. I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such watchful nurturing may do it harm. Let the soil rest from so much digging, and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaf's inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone. Thank you.
I turn to Mother Teresa to offer you a way to improve those negative environmental fields. The following 8 points are from Mother Teresa of Calcutta, followed by my comments on each of her suggestions. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. When you notice low-energy conduct of others, rather than allowing it to impact and infect your immediate surroundings, send them a silent blessing. When you forgive them, you choose to not be impacted in a negative manner. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. Your field of energy is protected from contamination by kindness. Kindness that comes from your heart will suffice to keep you from being dragged down into an energy field infected by false accusations. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. The world is filled with people who are looking for occasions to be offended. Your success at anything is enough to trigger such a reaction in others. Keep your energy field pristine by focusing on what you know to be your divine purpose, and by doing so, the universe will support and sustain you with what is labeled success. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. Your energy field will remain uncontaminated as long as you know that you are being honest and frank. This may attract others at the lower energies of dishonesty and cheating to try to take advantage of you. But you will not become their victim because you will have the sense of inner peace that characterizes higher and faster spiritual energy. What you spend years building, someone may destroy overnight. Build anyway. When you eat a banana, the goal is not to finish it, but to enjoy each bite while nourishing yourself. Everything in the material world that is built will ultimately be destroyed. Build not in fear of having it destroyed, but because you are giving expression to the infinite spirit within. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. Happiness is an inside job. You don't get it from anyone or anything. You bring it to everyone in every event of your life. Others may be jealous, find fault with you, and say terrible things about you, but you are free to choose happiness for yourself. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Like being happy, doing good is something that you do as an expression of your invisible spiritual essence. Stop looking for the approval and gratitude of others as your reason to do good. Ego, rooted in the material world, urges you to do what you do so that you will be remembered and rewarded as if life were a contest. Remind yourself to give love and to do good because that is who you are, and for no other reasons. And finally, Mother Teresa's last suggestion. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got, anyway. The best, as used by Mother Teresa, implies your highest, most sacred self. Others may attempt to contaminate your energy field by demanding more of you, or by criticizing you, or even by ignoring your efforts. When you return to your highest self, you are independent of those opinions almost instantly, and problems of feeling unappreciated or non-existent. Give the world your spirit and detach from the outcome of your efforts, and your energy field becomes less and less contaminated. Your intellect might protest and attempt to convince you that minefields and silent communication of energy are nonsense. But once you see this at work, you'll know. I've seen it work over and over in my own life. When I'm able to consciously project love, understanding, and compassion to those in my immediate life space, I feel the shift in energy. My wife, Marceline, is a master at this. Marceline has delivered 7 babies without any drugs, each time creating the kind of energy I describe here. Moreover, she is now a doula, a woman who assists others in delivering their babies in an atmosphere where fear and anxiety are replaced with a calm, loving feeling of thankfulness for being able to participate in such a miracle. The closer you come to being in a dynamic state of grace in your thoughts and refusing to be in the fields of those who are projecting lower energy thoughts, the closer you come to being in God's minefield.
And one of the nicest things about the universe is that it pays the highest interest rate of any bank on our planet. The universe gives 20 to 25% interest. If you send out $1,000 worth of love, you get back about $1,300 every time. You get your 1,000 back just to prove that what goes around comes around. And then you get a bonus. And the bonus is there just to remind you, this is the way to behave toward everyone. When you give something out into the universe, you get it back. In the simplest form, if somebody's walking down the street with a scowl on their face and you say, "Good morning, how are you this morning? Here's a newspaper for you," or whatever it is, and you just say something pleasant and loving and nice, you will see something pleasant and nice come back to you most of the time. If you don't, then that's a test. That's not a, "See, I told you it's not right." That's just your test. Most of the time, it will come back to you. A smile, you'll see, and you will feel better. Now, in the simplest form, that's what it is. That even applies to financial things. I remember a few years ago, my secretary was just all concerned about her income taxes, and she owed $500 more on her taxes, and it was the 14th of April. And she didn't know what she was going to do, and she didn't want to have to take out a loan and all of this. And I said, "Look, you've done so many great things for me this year. Here's $500. I'll just pay those taxes. I don't have any problem with it. I'll pay it. It won't affect me one way or the other." It wasn't really any great big gesture or magnanimous thing for me to do. It was just what seemed to be the right thing to do. The next day in the mail comes a check for $570 from Greece.
for an article that I had written for Family Circle magazine like 5 years before. It had been held up in some transaction, and there it was. The 500 back plus 70 as a bonus. That principle applies all the time for me in my life, I have found. And I didn't know that 10 years ago. I didn't know that if you give it away, it's like it's that circuitous nature of how each cell works. Remember the electrons that are circling around? They all just keep coming back. Everything just keeps coming back. And it works. And we are, when you think of an endless universe, we're still just tiny little cells. The same principle is working. But getting people who have been conditioned to believe that it's the bottom line and it's profits, and if I don't see it, then I don't believe it. And so in this technological, externally oriented, fast-paced kind of hectic society that we have created, we tend to forget some basic human principles. I tell people over and over again, your opinions are trivial. The opinions that you have about all the things and all the most profound problems in the world are essentially trivial, and they make almost no difference what your opinion is. It's your commitment to it that really makes all the difference in the world. You take the most profound problem in the world and understand that you're trivializing it by having an opinion about it. And you take the tiniest, most insignificant problem in the world, and if you have a commitment to doing something about it, that's the most profound thing you can do. We just talk briefly about something else that I think is very important, and that is the importance of modeling, or being an example. The highest place you can get to is be the person who whatever it is that comes out of your mouth is what is. And that's the purest form of sanity there is. That's the highest place you can get to, where whatever you say is what you follow through on. And that precludes maybe exaggerating for making a point or something like that. When you let something come out of your mouth, or when you behave in a certain way, that it is consistent always with the beliefs that you have. You're going to exaggerate something that doesn't need to be exaggerated. And you stop yourself. This is the place I'm at now in my life, where I'm trying to do this more and more, working at this, where I might have just exaggerated by a number or something. 2 million books were sold last week instead of 150,000 or whatever it is. And stop yourself. Like the need to distort your reality. Where does that come from? Why do you need to do that? No one cares. It doesn't make any difference. So that when you're doing that, usually if you're lying in any way, you know when you're doing it that it's a distortion. And after a while, if you distort enough, it becomes a habit. And correcting that habit and really going to work on that, whether you call it integrity or whether you call it the ability to live by example, and being a model, like with your children, it's so important to live what it is that you say rather than to be something different for them or try to pretend that you're something different than you are. I don't just get up in front of an audience, or I don't just sit down and write about something that's nice for you, but I don't have to do that. I am it. And what I've written in Gifts from Icus and The Sky's the Limit, particularly, and the Raising Children book, is what I am living each day of my life. Getting yourself to that point, that important integrity point, where what comes out of you is exactly what is in the world, and that if you're going to try to be persuasive or be a leader or make a difference in the world, then you do that by modeling, by providing an example up and down the line. And anytime you detract from that example, then you are not being authentic. And being authentic is a part of being enlightened, and it's very important to have that concept down cold. You can't be cheating on your income tax and punishing your children for being dishonest and be an authentic, enlightened person at the same time. You can't be blowing cigarettes in their face and telling them about the evils of addiction and be an enlightened, authentic person.
I wrote some textbooks back in the early 70s talking about the importance of goals. And I can't have them all withdrawn, but I think that I watch my kids, and some of them are in college now, and some of them are out, and they're worrying about what they're going to major in, and trying to set a goal. And I tell them just to try to just enjoy every single moment and just let yourself be guided. I think it's great advice for parenting. It's just guide, then just step aside and recognize that all of us have the anchor of the universe located within us. That's what Lao Tzu said. It's in every single one of us. And let yourself let yourself be swept with it. Let yourself be taken by it, rather than getting your individual ego in there saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. And you know, it's like Arthur Miller, the great playwright, he was asked a question at an interview with the New York Times. He was 91 years old, and they said to him, are you working on another play? And he said, I don't know. He said, but I probably am. And I understood exactly what he meant. I mean, I just finished writing a book that I put a year of my life into, This Wish is Fulfilled. And last night, I called the president of Hay House, my best friend, Reed Tracy, and I said, there's an idea germinating inside of me that I think will ultimately become a book. I don't know even quite, I just know it's starting to excite me. And I've often been called the father of motivation all over the world. They've got this title they put next to me, and I always say, if I have to be the father of anything other than the 8 children that I have, I would choose to be the father of inspiration, because I think it's the reverse of motivation. Motivation is when you get a hold of an idea and you take it where you believe that you can take it with your goals, and any obstacles that come along, you're going to plow through them, you're going to make this thing happen. And that's motivation. You get a hold of an idea. Inspiration is an idea gets a hold of you, and it takes you where you were intended to go even before you were ever conceived. I can't imagine you as a little boy in Germany were thinking about, you know, being one of the most famous authors in the world. I mean, and how it all comes about, and what's going to come next for you. And like you said, even I don't even know what words are going to come out next. It's for me, it's just being completely immersed in the now and surrendering, just like turning it over. That's just what I do. I turn it over. And the most amazing things happen when you turn it over. That's when God comes into your life. That's what Carl Jung called synchronicity. You have almost like a collaboration with fate. You're letting it all unfold. In the midst of your writing, I don't know if it happens for you, but you know, there'll be something I'm not sure or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll go to the mail, or somebody will pick up the phone, and it'll be right there. And it's like, after a while, you start to almost count on it. You start to realize that you don't have to do anything. You can just let it come to you.
Yes.
So I don't think you can be totally free of goals. Like, you know, I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have a goal to go to the toilet, you know. I mean, so I don't think I can get totally out of that goal place. But by and large in my life, I just let it be. I think the Beatles had it right. When you find yourself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will come an answer, let it be. I don't know, that's my theme.
I think there is a time in people's lives when there is a place for goals, but the important thing is the nature of the goal, and if it arises out of inspiration, as you call it, or a vision that comes to you of something that wants to be created through you. It could be a book. When The Power of Now came to me, I felt this urge suddenly of writing. I bought a yellow notepad and began writing the first line, and at that moment I knew it's a book, and I knew what it was about, and it was very different from the kind of casual writing I had done before over the years, sometimes after sitting with people in having a session, counseling sessions, doing meditation with small groups. I would sometimes say things and then later I would write them down because that was new to me too, but I said things that I didn't know before, they came out. So that was a more casual writing, and then suddenly an energy stream came of a very different, more empowered kind of writing. And from the very first moment I knew it's a book. So in that sense, one could say I suddenly had the vision of writing a book, one could say. As one could say, I had a goal of producing a book. But it wasn't something that came as with a promise of delivering some kind of personal fulfillment to me in any way, that I can become famous through that, or I can make money through that, or I can become powerful through that, people are going to listen to me. All these could have been motivations for writing a book, but it was more like something, a realization of something that wants to come into being, and then you help it along, you go with it, you become a channel through which that wants to come into being comes into being.